Classic TV fans, Rick 9G here. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about the Twilight Zone, more specifically about an episode called A Stop at Willoughby. And I'll be able to tell you what happened to one of the actors. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at when over 3 decades passes, what happens to a person or how a person changes. Even surprisingly that you may not have even spotted them in another episode or in another production. I want to thank all of you for supporting my channel, for hitting that subscribe button, for hitting the like button. It does make a difference. Thank you so much for allowing me to achieve 140,000 subscribers. Wow. That is a big milestone, so thanks to all of you. Let's get started with the episode. Now, Stop at Willoughby aired May 6, 1960. It was from season 1, and it was episode 30. This episode tells us a story about a man, Mr. Williams, who is just tired of his miserable job. He's tired of his life. He's tired of his wife. And the business that he's in is just so cutthroat. It's just so difficult for him. He goes through the hustle and bustle of life, taking the train back from his home to his work. And in that time, he discovers that on his way home, he falls asleep and he wakes up in a town called Willoughby. And he wonders where this even is and whether this was a dream, whether it was reality or not. Now, when he wakes back up, he realizes that he's back on the train where he normally was. Willoughby is nowhere to be found. And he always encountered this conductor. Now, this conductor is kind of the man who sets him straight, who kind of grounds him or is trying to ground him to reality and saying, you know, there's no Willoughby anywhere and, you know, you're on this train and so forth. He's kind of a makeshift friend, just like a pop-up friend for him. And this train conductor, this actor, is the man that I am speaking of. Now, technically, there's 2 conductors. There's the conductor from the Willoughby era, or the time where he does, quote-unquote, appear in Willoughby. And then there's the 1960s conductor, which is the present. That's the one where he is essentially, you know, his normal life, not the one from 1888, which is the Willoughby one. Now, the actor who played the 1960 conductor, his name is Jason Wingreen. And you're pretty familiar with this face. You may have seen him. I know a lot of you are big fans of this episode. I'm not going to spoil what happens in the episode. There's really no reason to in this because I'm just looking at the actor himself, focusing on the conductor. And I want to show you another production in which he appeared. This is a little more than 30 years later, and it's on a show that I've covered recently with another Twilight Zone actor. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Now, 32 years later, this episode aired of Seinfeld. It is the episode called The Opera, and it aired November 4th, 1992, essentially 32 years later, in which the gang visits the opera and they have a few adventures here and there. Now, I made a video previously with Bill Irwin and the fact that he was on a Twilight Zone episode and then later appeared in a Seinfeld episode. Really, really cool. And we're going to see Jason Wingreen in this episode, The Opera. Now, he makes a small appearance, not to any applause or anything like that. I would even say that a lot of people maybe didn't even recognize him, but once you know who he is, then it's definitely difficult to miss him. Now, he was also the voice. He did a lot of stuff, a lot of productions, but he was also the voice in Star Wars. If you're a fan of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and Boba Fett, he was the original voice of Boba Fett. So that's really cool. But here we see him as playing man number 2. That's his official credit in this episode, in the opera episode, man number 2. Now, what happens in this episode, Elaine, without knowing, is dating this guy called Crazy Joe Davola, who has a threatening message that he leaves on Jerry's recorder. Now, the gang goes to the opera and they have these tickets and a lot of stuff ensues. It's not a great evening of entertainment for any of them. I mean, George's girlfriend Susan decides that she can't go, so he doesn't want to go alone until Kramer mentions that they could make money scalping her ticket. Now, George makes a mess of that as usual, and that's where we see Mr. Jason Wingreen appear. He's one of the men who is potentially trying to buy the tickets. And Elaine's new boyfriend, who I mentioned, Crazy Joe Davola, decides that he can't go with her and he has other plans. In fact, Joey's Jerry's nemesis, Crazy Joe Davola, who plans on stalking him at every opportunity, even at the opera. Now, I want to know if you are a fan of the Stop at Willoughby episode. What do you like most about it? I know there are a lot of fans of that episode. And if you ever noticed that he was on Seinfeld as well, one of the main reasons I love it is because Seinfeld and Twilight Zone are about 30 years apart, 3 decades. And there are many actors that were once on the Twilight Zone that later appear on Seinfeld for many different reasons. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld and everyone involved, Larry David, are big fans of old classic television movies, and so they might be a really big fan of Twilight Zone and put some of the actors in here. But it's really, really cool. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy the appearance of Jason Wingreen and essentially enjoyed looking at him, 30 years later. He has passed away. He passed away 2015. But it is great to see him in these 2 episodes and the production value that he did give by appearing on them. Thank you so much to all of you for your support, for your love, for your subscriptions. It's absolutely free to do so, for liking this video, and for leaving a comment. It all helps out. It all helps to increase the channel and boost the algorithm, so I do appreciate it. We'll see you all next time, and don't forget, everyone, be hopeful. Thank you so much to everyone who supports my work on Patreon. David D, Sally N, Gerard D, Greg S, Ricky, Citizen Kane 359, Kevin K, and Vito L. If you want to appear on this list, don't forget to look at the Patreon description in the link below. Thank you.